Good morning, everyone. This is Britt Simon. So I have a few minutes, I think, unless my wife tells me something different in the next few minutes. So I think I've got a little bit of time to take some questions. See if there's any of you out there that would like to ask any questions you like on DV 2020, 21, DV 24, or DV 25. So firstly, DV 2020 and 21, no news. We're still waiting for the appeal court to make their judgment, and there is no way to hurry them up, or no way to get that faster. Hi, Tech Pirate, how you doing? Good to speak to you this morning. Hello, Sanam and Abdul and Abdikani. Good morning to you all. Okay, so who's going to have first question? Here we go. By the way, the Asian ranking is still in 5K. Yeah, I don't know what that means. Update for DV 2021. Yeah, no news. No news on DV 2021. Happy New Year, and thanks. Yes, thanks for that, Paige. Happy New Year to you. I hope it's a good one for you. I'm sure it will be. Okay, introverted content creator, one of my favorite usernames. Good to speak to you. Britt, you should be elected the next KCC and probably US CIS head. God forbid. No, thank you. Firstly, I couldn't afford to work for the government that way. I just couldn't afford it. They pay peanuts, and they get what they get for peanuts. And secondly, I wouldn't want to live over there. I saw a list of the top, or the top 10, if you like, or the bottom 10 worst states for various factors, and Kentucky was right in there. So no, thank you. Don't want to go to the KCC. Why Asia is like a tortoise? Well, it's actually not like a tortoise in a sense, because they're actually doing pretty well in terms of scheduling and issuing visas. So they're doing what they need to do. It may not seem fast because you may be looking at the highest case numbers that we know are out there. But I think when we see the data in a couple of days' time, we'll see that actually, yes, they've been processing pretty well. When I looked at this a few days ago, globally, there were 1,000 more visas issued during the first 2 months of this year than there were in the first 2 months of last year. And that's significant. That's 30% more. So it's not that they're going slowly. So, the visa bulletin number is relative to the total population. The reality is there are too many people selected in each of the regions, and therefore you're going to perceive slow progress in the visa bulletin because it won't get to the highest case numbers, of course. That's what's going to happen, right? I mean, you should know that by now. Following from Kenya, waiting for your 2NL, AF57K. Yeah, you're going to be waiting some months, I think. Is being unemployed since college graduation due to the decision not to pursue the career a negative thing in the interview? No. The education that they care about is generalized education, not vocational. So if you study to be a doctor, which is vocational training, and then you become a lumberjack, then your vocational training didn't help you get into your career, right? And that seems a bit odd. But if you go to university and you get just a generalized education, that helps in whatever you do. So it doesn't matter that you didn't then move into a specific field, or even being unemployed doesn't really matter. It's not what they care about. Now, if they think that you lack the skills to go find a job and you don't have the financial resources, to support you in the USA, that can be a problem. But if you have the skills to go make a living in the USA, then there's no reason why you can't be issued a visa. DV 2021 appeal came. No, it didn't. We don't have the result of that. One day and no more, we will know more. Yeah, don't forget about the time, by the way. It'll probably be 2 days from now. It's not it's not the 1st of January wherever you live, right? It's the 1st of January is when we'll have the data, and Zarthesis will extract that, and it's probably about this time in 2 days' time that I'll have the data, that we'll all have the data, right? It'll be sort of early morning my time, which will be late for most of you on the day of the 1st, right? So just bear that in mind, okay? And then I'll have a look at the data, and there are some things that I already know I want to tell you about, some specific stuff, and I'll be able to give that information on that day. And then I'll do some analysis videos on each of the regions to make things a little bit clearer for each region, okay? Happy New Year to you, indeed. Is 10K a high case number of Nepal? Probably not, no. We don't know how high Nepal goes, actually. So, but I don't think 10K is a high case number for that. And it doesn't matter anyway, because in Nepal, the number of selectees is limited to the extent where almost everyone should go current in Nepal, right? So it would be weird to see Nepal not being current, frankly. Introverted content creator asked the question of job plans when arriving in use during interview. Is it okay to say that I'm not sure yet, but I want to get the job right away? Is it bad to say I want to start my own business? The truth is what you tell in the interview. The truth, right? Whatever is your realistic truth. If you're going to go into your interview and you say you want to be an astronaut, but you haven't got any skills about being an astronaut, then obviously that's a ridiculous answer. So it might sound very impressive that you're going to be an astronaut, or you're going to be an accountant, or you're going to be a programmer, or whatever. But if you have no skills in that area, then it makes absolutely no sense to give somebody else's idea of a good answer. The best answer is your personal truth. So if you plan to go into business and you have the business acumen and you have the finances to start a business, then say that. Okay, if that's what you plan to do, tell the truth. How is Abu Dhabi performing? Not great, not terrible. I think they're certainly not in the Addis league of being bad. But I did do a video about it the other day, and I called out several embassies which I said were bad, were performing bad, and Abu Dhabi wasn't on that list, I don't think. So have a look at that video. And what I said was, if I hadn't called out that embassy as being a bad embassy, then I don't think it's a bad embassy, right? If on the reciprocity page it says document is not available, is it waived off in the interview? Yeah, that's what it means. If they say not available, if they say that a police certificate is not available in that country, then they don't expect you to produce that police certificate, or whatever other document it is that they've said is not available. That's what it means, yeah. Can you please evaluate my chance? Tunisia, Africa, case number 55K. Look, all I can say is your case number is not a problem. Tunisia, should be okay in terms of embassy processing, right? You shouldn't have a problem there. You got good embassies nearby, so you shouldn't have a problem. But I know nothing about your case. I don't know whether you meet the requirements or whether you told the truth. I know nothing about that. Okay, everybody, right now, there's 104 people online right now, and I've had 9 likes. So can we get the likes number up? So everybody just take a moment to find the like button and click the like button. I should have 100 likes on this. I'm taking my Saturday morning to talk to you. So give me the likes. That's the first thing you can do. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that number. Thank you. DV 2024K, say a 15K without 2NL. What could be the problem? Submitted early May. Probably your embassy. Maina, let me know which embassy you're at, and we'll talk about your embassy. Okay. Okay. I finally reached New York after your advices. It's been a year now. Awesome, Sanam. Glad to hear that. And New York, it's nice choice. Big, brave choice there. It's a big city. If you're in New York City, big city. New York State is a little bit easier. There's some sort of less expensive areas of New York State, but New York City is obviously alive, right? 65K case number, is it a high case number or is it a normal? Now, Duque Sam has not given us a region, so that means I've got to go and find an angel to kill, because you've not given us a region, so your case number is completely meaningless. And it's meaningless because the case number 65K can exist in at least 2 regions, in EU and Africa. And even if you told me your case number was 65,101, that exact same case number could exist in both those regions. So which region are you in? I don't know. I can't read your mind. So when you give me your case number without a region, it's useless to me and it's useless to you. That's why an angel has to die in your name. Hi, Mr. Britt. I want more likes. Come on, people. 12 likes. That's nuts. Everybody, click the likes button. Hi, Britt. How can we check our DV case number and SEAC data, and what mean the difference between MVC? Okay. If you're DV 2024, you can't check your SEAC status page yet. That's going to be checkable in about 2 days' time, on the 1st of January and onwards, okay? And in there, you're going to see various statuses. You'll see a status of at NVC, which is simply the starting status that every case goes through. It means you haven't been scheduled for interview yet. It doesn't infer that your case is being processed by MVC. It actually isn't at MVC, it's at KCC. But it really just means that your case has not been scheduled. Then if you've been scheduled, you'll see other statuses such as in transit, which is when KCC has sent the embassy your case, but the embassy has not yet marked it as being received. Then you'll see ready. Ready is the status for when you're waiting for your interview, and you'll see that status, which is what in transit changes to. It changes to ready. Then when you've been interviewed, you're going to be either approved, issued, right? You could be issued or you could be refused. And if you're refused, it could be refused temporarily or refused permanently. And we understand the difference between those two types of refusals based on the wording that's under the message, under the status there of refused, right? If it's a long status, a long message, then it's a temporary refusal, which can be overcome. And the other status you might see, there's 2 other statuses actually that you might see. One is transfer, and that means where you were sent your 2NL, you were at one embassy and you asked to be moved to a different embassy, and it's a communication between the 2 embassies not involving KCC, and then your case is marked as transfer. The other status you could see is administrative processing, and that specific status is part of the visa issuance process. It is to do with the visa being printed. That's it. That's all the statuses that you could have at MVC, ready, in transit, issued, refused with 2 variations, transfer, and administrative processing. That's the only statuses you can see, and you'll see that in a couple of days' time. Okay. How long does it take how long does it take to get a job in tech once we're there? How can I answer that? I can tell you that when I came to the States in 2014, I'd already contracted for the company that I wanted to work at, and I'd contacted them before I actually came to America and say, hey, I'm moving to America. Do you want to hire me? And despite the fact that I knew that company very, very well, that company had given me stock options. That company had contracted me for years. They had flown me from the UK to work in California, to work in Florida. I'd been all over the States for that company, flying from the UK, and like a very long relationship. Even with a company that knew me that well, it still took something like 6 to 8 weeks to go through the onboarding process, the interview process, to be approved, to actually, for them to have the job requisition approved and all that. It took weeks, right? Now, there was no company in America that knew me better than that particular company. And that company was highly motivated to hire me because they'd only ever used me on a contract basis before, which was much more expensive for them than paying me a salaried wage. And they'd been flying me all over the world, right? I mean, they'd been flying me for every 2 weeks. I was on a plane from the UK to America for years, right? So they were highly motivated to hire me, but it still took weeks. So that's once the company has decided they want to hire you. How long will it take you to find a job? It's a very difficult question to answer because I don't know what your skill sets are, how desirable you are, how known you are in the industry. You know, it's difficult for me to answer. But I can tell you that when they absolutely wanted to hire me, and I wanted to work for this company, and I even chose the place I wanted to live based on where their head office was, the whole thing, right? Even then, it still took at least 6 weeks. So just think about that. Brother Nika, hello. What do you think about the case number 37K in country Georgia, Europe, and what is happening January 1? Okay, on January 1, we'll have the data that will tell us precisely where your case number is in the range of selectees. So I don't think anything about your case number today, because in 2 days' time, I'm going to know everything about your case number, and so will you. So wait until then, right? There's no point me trying to guess at this point when we're going to have real data in a couple of days' time. Duque-san, your angel died, I'm afraid, but you're now telling me you're in Africa. So that's a pretty good case number. You don't need to worry about your case number. You only need to worry about which embassy you're at and that sort of thing. Okay. Is Egypt issuing enough 2NLs? No, I don't think they are. They seem to be going slowly. I would expect a much higher performance from them, considering the amount of work they have to do. There's at least, of the 55,000 selectees that are in Africa, 10,000 of those at least should be going through the Cairo embassy, right? So that's like a fifth of the whole program. It's about 11,000 actually, 11,000, and it's probably higher than that. So 1/5 of everything that's going on in Africa should be going through Cairo. So they should be absolutely the front runner in terms of scheduling appointments, and they're not. They're not even close, right? They're nowhere near. So yes, I'm worried about Cairo. We'll have the data in a couple of days' time that will show their full quarter-to-date performance, but I'm quite sure that we're going to see not enough from Cairo. Will that change in the next month or two? I don't know, right? And can we change it through any means, like a lawsuit, a Twitter campaign, or protests outside the embassy? No, none of that will work. None of it will work, right? So no, you can't do anything about it if that's what happens. And the smart thing to do about it is to think what else you can do, right? Where else could you be interviewed? Where else could you live? Okay. Is 62K considered high in Algeria? Again, I don't know. In a couple of days' time, we're going to have the data, so I'll leave the question for that. Has the SEAC data come out yet? No, it comes out on the 1st. 54K in Europe. I'm wondering if I have a chance. Yeah, that's a high number. So you're probably, you will want to see the data. You'll know in a couple of days' time. 60K Africa, Nairobi. A bit worried. Is it high? It's not too bad, considering that Nairobi are now performing better. They processed 199 in 1 month, 168 in the other month. Well, not just processed, they issued. So they actually interviewed more people than that, right? So that's pretty good. That's a pretty good start for Nairobi. I'm very pleased to see that. And I hope some of these bad performing embassies will take a lead from Nairobi and become, better. I'm hoping that. Okay. Hybrid, is it compulsory? Now I've got to stop right here. Caroline, Catherine, I've just had a look at the likes. I'm sorry to go on about the likes, but the likes help my videos get noticed, right? So I need you guys to click the like button, and it doesn't seem much to ask. So click the like button, please. Hi, Britt. Is it compulsory to bring along the medicals at the interview, or the results could be sent afterwards? For example, the test has been done, but the results not yet available at the time of interview. There are some people who go to the interview without their medicals and follow up with the medicals. Your case will be on hold until you provide the medical. Okay. There are some organizations like IOM that think it is their right to stop the embassy interview because they can't schedule you for a medical, or your medical can't be performed in time. That is incorrect. They should not have that right, but they seem to behave that way, and they manage to make it that way. So if you're in a country where IOM is managing the process to some extent, then unfortunately they won't let you do that, Caroline. They would expect you to have your medical ready at the time of interview, but it should not be their decision. They're only the bloody physicians. They are not the embassy, and so the embassy is entitled to interview whoever they want and should interview whoever they want. And if that means that that person has to follow up with the medical, so be it. That should have nothing to do with IOM, and IOM have no power in that process, or they should have no power in that process, but unfortunately they're bullies, and so they give themselves that power. It's always frustrated me, actually. Okay. AF20K in Abu Dhabi, no progress. Is the embassy doing good this year? It's not doing badly, but it's not doing great, right? So, there is clearly some small backlog. Is it a terrible backlog? I don't think so at this point, but we'll see. We have to keep an eye on that, and we'll know more in a couple of days' time. Hi, Simon. 2024 EU24K. If I have to provide sufficient savings during the interview, what amount should be sufficient? Is there a minimum amount required, or is it up to the interviewer? It is up to the interviewer, and it's somewhat subjective, right? But I can tell you this: during the 10 years that I've been doing this, I've been giving the number of about $10,000 per person. But that worries me, because $10,000 per person was a lot more 10 years ago than it is today. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if interviewers start to ask for proof of higher numbers than that, right? And $10,000 won't last long. I mean, I remember going through, I mentioned earlier that 6 weeks that I was here, I went through $40,000 like that in my first few weeks in America, because you have to do a few things. I had to buy a little car, I had to rent a house, had to get some furniture for the house, and before I noticed it, I'd spent $40,000. So $10,000 per person might sound like a lot of money, but it really isn't. In certain parts of America, it's nothing, right? So have a think about that. Haji, hello, my friend. I have 2 questions. My daughter was born 4 months ago. Congratulations. And I take passport yesterday for her. Should I fill DS260 for her now, or wait until the interview, and will it delay the interview? You are absolutely bloody well going to screw yourself up, Haji, if you don't unlock your DS260 right now and add your kid, right? Why didn't you do that 4 months ago? I get very frustrated when people don't listen to simple instructions. You had the child, you should have unlocked your DS260 4 months ago. You didn't need to wait until you had the passport for her, because you could have used the passport number of one of the parents. And you should absolutely unlock your DS260s and add your daughter to your DS260s and add a DS260 for her. And no, you should not wait until the interview, and you should not wait until you've been scheduled. And if you wait until you're in AV status, KCC won't even unlock your DS260. So then you're really screwed. So do that today. Write an email today asking KCC to unlock your form and add your daughter immediately, right? Please don't waste any more time on that. Amazing. I don't know. Can't wait for the data. Anxiety is killing me. Yeah, I know what you mean. Merry Christmas. My number is AF4200. Have been selected but haven't received a second email for the interview. Any possibility of being called? It's now up to your embassy. Which embassy are you at? Lucas, KGT. One of the worst case scenarios that my wife and daughter passport are not processed in time. Can I just go with their passport to interview rather than reopening the DS260? Yeah, I didn't say that you have to that you have to have the passport for the DS260. In fact, when you're filling in the DS260, there's a drop-down option that says which ID are you going to use. Are you going to use a passport and then give the passport number? Or are you using some other form of national ID? And you could have used that. You should use that. So, and then if your passport arrives in time for you to take it to the interview, great. You just go along and show it at the interview. No problem. AF65K, do you think AF would get current soon enough in order to apply for a change of status under DV? Well, okay. So a couple of questions that you've mixed together there. Would AF get current? No, I don't think AF region or any region is going to go current. Out of all the regions, the only one that might go current is Africa if many embassies misbehave. But I'm starting to see signs that, at least for Nairobi, for example, the misbehaving is less than it was before. And therefore, there are too many people selected. 55,000 selectees with 24,000 visas available. Can't work, can it? You can't get 55,000 into 24,000. The quota for Africa is about 24,000, right? So you got 55,000 people and 24,000 visas available for those 55,000 people. Clearly, some of them will miss out. Who should miss out? Highest case numbers should miss out. That's who should miss out, right? Also, some of the people that will miss out is people that are assigned to embassies that just build up a big backlog, right? Those people will miss out. So the question is, how many of the 55,000 will have their chances ruined by the embassies misbehaving, right? How many people, therefore, can be processed? And how many is that in relation to the 24,000? That's the math. That's how the math works. And that determines whether or not Africa goes current. Now, your question, in a sense, though, is Africa 65K. Will that number go current? And will it go current early enough for you to do adjustment to status? Well, adjustment to status can be started quite late. Even in like the latest that you need to submit is July. The final visa bulletin for DV 2024 will be issued in July. So in that visa bulletin, if the number up to that point is 60,000 and you're not current yet, and then in that final visa bulletin it becomes 65,000 and you become current, you could submit your I-485 package for adjustment to status at that point, and there is enough time to process that and process the whole thing by September 30th. That can happen, right? There is enough time. So the question really is, okay, so is AF65K going to go current? Well, let's wait a couple of days and we'll see the data and we'll have a better idea. And we can start to think about that. But really, it's about how the embassies behave, because like I was explaining a moment ago, if all the embassies in Africa behaved well and did all of the work they're supposed to do, then without a shadow of a doubt, Africa would not go current, right? Because you can't get 55,000 people to fit into 24,000 visas. So if they all have a perfect opportunity, they all can get interviewed because all the embassies are working well, then around about more than half the people will lose their chance because their number is too high. On the other hand, if the embassies, or a significant number of them, work badly, then some of those higher numbers, not the highest numbers, but some of the higher numbers might get a chance. And I don't know where 65K falls in that spectrum yet, right? So we have to wait and see for a couple of days. Okay? Just in case. Great name. Happy New Year to you too, indeed. Another question during interview. If I answer that I want to land and get the green card and then go back to arrange my stuff to go permanently, would that be a bad answer? No, if that's the truth, that's fine. And it's very normal for people. Look, maybe you've been to America before, maybe you haven't, but how brave would it be to just land and just say, look, out of all of America, out of all the many cities there are in America, I think I'm going to get it right first time. I'm going to choose the right city. I'm going to choose the right place. And I'm going to instantly just leave there and never go back to my homeland in order to tie up loose ends. That was a really brave decision. I understand some people do that because the cost of the flights to them seems prohibitive. But in reality, most people that have enough money would come over for an activation trip, activate their visas, then probably go home, give up their job, sell their car, sell their house, pack up and take a few months to come over back to the USA and settle down into the area that they've chosen. And during that activation trip, maybe spend some time looking around, figuring out if you like this place that you've pinpointed on a map. Do you like the city? Do you like the people there? Do you like the politics? Do you like the weather? Do you think there's jobs? Do you think there's a nice home for you to live in? Or maybe you want to try somewhere else, right? And maybe you want to do another trip to the USA before you make that final move. So it's very normal and okay just to explain that to the interviewer, right? To the CEO, no problem. Britt, when exactly will March figures come out? I realize that. Oh, okay. You mean March, the VB for the March interviews. I realize currently February figures are out. My issue has to do with Ghana Accra. IMC does not seem to be speeding up, and my case number is AF28K above. Right. Okay. So you're a little confused. Firstly, to your first question, when will the visa bulletin come out that affects March interviews? That will come out between the 8th and the 15th of next month of January, right? That's when it'll be published. And it's like that every month between the 8th and the 15th. There might be some exceptions. Maybe we've seen it a few times on the 7th, and it has been later than the 15th some months. But generally speaking, the visa bulletin is always published between the 8th and the 15th, right? So just think like that. Now, you're at Ghana. We already know that Ghana has started off, slowly. Let's put it like that. It's not as good as it used to be. Probably a little bit better than it was last year, but marginally so, right? Which creates risk for people that get locked into interviews, at that embassy, right? So what will happen is, since the Africa is at 26.5, you're probably going to go current in the March 2NL, right? For in the next few weeks, next 2 weeks. Once you go current, if your DS260 is processed, you'll be put into AV status, and you're locked into your embassy choice at that point, right? You're put into AV status at that specific embassy, right? So you'll be locked into Ghana. Then you've got no choice but to wait and hope that they schedule your interview. If I were in your position, I would probably have moved by now to a different country, and I would have unlocked my DS260 and changed my address to a country where the embassy was working, because I don't know that they're going to have enough interview capacity if they keep at current pace to get to your case number. And it's certainly, if your case number was 40K, 50K, 60K, I would certainly be worried. You might be okay if you get locked into Accra, but it's by no means certain, right? So you might want to think about that, and you have a few days left where you could unlock your DS260 and make the change. You have a few days left, right? But once the visa bulletin is published, you will very quickly transition to AV status, and then if you're locked into an embassy that isn't going to work for you, then you're screwed. Okay, so and I'm hoping everybody is listening to that, because that is going to be the difference for some people between getting a visa and not. Just thinking about your embassy performance, that's going to be literally the critical decision that you need to have, right? Where are the subtitles? We need translation. I speak English, and I'm English. I'm British. I speak English pretty well. You should be able to understand that. I'm hoping you can. I'm sorry there's not subtitles because, I'm speaking live. So my passport is getting expired in 1 month. When I get new passport, should I ask KC to unlock the DS260 or take both passports with myself to the embassy? The latter. Take both passports to the embassy. There's no need to unlock for updating the passport number in the DS260. Okay. Maina, who was asking earlier, Nairobi. So Nairobi is pretty good. And I think you were 15K from what you said earlier, I think. I might have that wrong. But anyway, so just be patient. You should get a 2NL probably in the next couple of weeks let's say you'll get the visa bulletin in about 2 weeks' time, and the next batch of 2NLs will be sent just after that. Okay. We are number 39X in Nairobi. We are safe with the number as a family in Nairobi embassy. Are we safe? You probably are safe because Nairobi seems to be working better. If they continue working in the way that they have started, then you should be okay. As per your experience, is case number 14K Asia good or not, as the process currently is going very slow? 14K doesn't sound like a high case number to me for Asia. So, it should be okay, but we'll know better in a couple of days' time. Fear God. I hate your name. That's the worst possible name you could imagine. Why would anyone fear God? It makes no sense at all. The reason why we don't like videos is that the algorithms are used against us by big tech companies, but we obviously like your content. That's why we run to your live immediately. I see. Interesting sort of thinking. I want the algorithms to work for me. So, so like the videos, please. At least make sure you're subscribed. But I assume that you've got the notification bell turned on. That's how you run to the videos immediately. But anyway, there you go. And don't fear God. No need. Hi, I don't plan to travel with all the members of the family. Must I fill for all of them in the DS260? In your DS260, you have to list all of the family members, right? They are your family, regardless of whether they're moving or not. You only fill in a DS260 for the derivatives if they plan to travel to the USA. If they don't plan to travel, there's no need to fill in the DS260 for them, right? But you fill their details in as your daughters or sons or spouse on your DS260, right? Okay. My wife and I have 3 citizenships combined. Are you collecting them? Chile, Switzerland, current residence, and Italy. What citizenship should I apply under for the biggest chance? Just sent you a heart, I guess. Okay, citizenship makes no difference whatsoever in this process, right? So it doesn't change which country you're allocated to. You're allocated to a country of chargeability based on where you were born, right? So it's got nothing to do with your current citizenship. In terms of the citizenship that you show during the process, well, you're actually supposed to declare all the citizenships that you have, and then you just pick whichever passport is most convenient for you to get the visa stamped into that passport. It doesn't matter which one you choose, but it makes no difference to your chance of selection or anything else, frankly. And the 3 countries you mentioned have nothing particularly bad about them, so it's not gonna be a problem. Okay. And you're gonna go for the 4th citizenship, I suppose. America. After looking at Abu Dhabi performance, would you be able to say if 13K is low or high number? Look, I've already said 13K in Asia doesn't seem like a high number, but again, we'll have more data in a couple of days' time. Let's have a look at that. Okay. Do you think OC 1900 has a chance for this year? I definitely wouldn't answer that question without seeing the distribution. I'm pretty sure that cases above 2,000 and something are going to have a tough time this year in Oceania. And so, but you're on the cusp, right? OC 1900. So last year in DV 2023, and I am expecting the distribution to be roughly the same in 24 as it was in 23, because it was an increase in the number of selectees in Oceania was increased by 77%, right? That's a staggering increase and no justification for it. And so, and not everybody in DV 2023 got their chance. The case numbers in DV 2023 became current for Oceania up to 2,500, but in that last increase that went up to 2,500, there were lots of people that had their interviews cancelled, right? So, so actually the real number for DV 2023 should have been lower than 2,500. And what we'll have to do is figure out how many selectees it takes to actually meet the quotas, etc. The other interesting thing about Oceania is that in DV 2023, it was bang on its quota. It was almost exactly on its quota, whereas other regions, apart from Africa, had increased above their quota, thanks to Africa underfilling, right? Each of the other regions took quota from Africa because Africa didn't use it. So Oceania, for whatever reason, didn't fill more. So, you know, it's a bit of an odd bit of math, but in a couple of days' time, we'll see the data. And I do plan to make videos about each region, including Oceania, and I already know what I'm looking for with Oceania in particular, to be able to predict where the cutoff will be. And Oceania and South America are easier to predict than the other the other regions, right? So, so I'll likely be a bit more confident in giving a prediction for those regions. We'll see. We'll have to see what the data looks like. Okay. AS25K, Jordan, case number is high number or normal number? It's starting to sound a little bit high, but we'll know in a couple of days' time. Dev Home says, thank you. Why is Liberia not issuing DV visas? I don't know. Ahmed says, what do you think about Egypt? It issued 100 visas in October and November. Yeah, I've already said Egypt is not performing the way they should be performing. The cases from Egypt, there's about 5,500 selectees from Egypt, about the same from Sudan. All of those are supposed to be interviewing in Cairo. That's 11,000 people, right? They should be doing a massive number of interviews each month. They should be issuing 300 and 400 visas per month. They're not, right? And so they're clearly not doing enough. Thank you for the information you're providing us with. Case number is AF62K. Is there any chance? It's not a bad number. Again, it depends which embassy you're at. 32K Cairo. Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to see what the distribution looks like for Cairo or for Egypt, because firstly, there's the problem of the embassy performance, but secondly, we don't know where the Cairo or the Egypt cutoff in the draw happened, right? And we might be able to see that. Might be able to see that in the numbers. We'll see. Dorcas Adventures. Thank you so much for the great information you always bring to us. I'm from Kenya. Case number AF61K. What do you think, as we wait for 1st of January, might be interviewed when? I'll wait for 1st of January. You know, with 2 days to go, you've already waited since May, right? You can wait another couple of days to have a more accurate answer. I think that's a smart decision, right? So I can't know if my DS260 is processed or not from the data of SEAC. No, you can't. You can't tell that. The only way you can find out whether your DS260 has been processed or not is to email KCC. But if you submit it in May or June or whatever, don't email KCC. You know, if your case number is Africa 98,000 and you're emailing them now and you submit it in May, number one, your case is almost certainly processed. So you would be wasting them time. Number two, your case number is Africa 98K. So what the hell are you asking them for anyway? You've got months to wait. You may as well just wait. And number three, you have to understand that every email we send to KCC needs to be read and opened and interpreted. And if you send multiple emails every 5 minutes asking the same question over and over again, it just wastes their time. there was a piece of FOIA evidence published by Curtis Morrison that had some of the emails, and one of the emails in there was from an EU case number in 2021 who was emailing multiple times a day, emailing KCC multiple times a day, every day for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, right? And unfortunately, KCC staff have to waste time by opening that email, seeing if there's any new information in that email, and and then closing it or responding to it or whatever else. A complete waste of their time. And that time being wasted could be spent on processing DS260s and getting everybody scheduled for interviews. So don't be an asshole that goes and wastes KCC's time because you are so desperate to send to Arthur the status of your case. Just ask them once and then move on with life. Wait for their answer, right? Don't ask them multiple times. But if your case number is high, don't even bother asking them yet. And if you submitted early, it's been processed. Get over it. It's fine, right? So, don't worry about that so much. And no, it's not available on CA. Okay. Hi, we have a shortage of COVID vaccines, and I'm sure I'll be able to get vaccinated for the medical. Is that going to be a problem? The medical is in another country which also lacks vaccines at the moment. So the physician will understand the localized shortage of vaccines, right? And therefore will make an allowance for that. That's okay. The physician is entitled to add in some vaccinations, seasonal ones like flu shots, or take out requirements for vaccinations because those vaccinations are not available, right? So the physician will make a sensible decision based on what's known. And if you need the COVID vaccine, some of the physicians may even be able to arrange that or administer that right there in the interview. So yeah, don't worry about that. Okay. CMD, I'm a widow of DV 2024. Case number is 88K. That can only be Africa. So I'm not gonna have to kill an angel, but we'll see. We'll see what you say. Searched your embassy in Bangladesh. What is my hope? Well, in your case, Bangladesh is not going to be the problem because they don't have a lot of activity for DV lottery, right? So you don't have to worry about Bangladesh embassy. But in your case, you do have to worry about your case number. And at the moment, I don't know. I haven't got the data. We'll see the data in a couple of days' time, and we'll have a better idea then. Okay. And CMD, I see that you have repeated your question 58 times. So yes, an angel will now be killed in your name. Oh my God. Yeah. Even Akela says, dude, don't spam. He's right. Don't spam, CMD. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I answered your question. Okay, but I want to answer my question. Well, don't ask 58 times and you'll get an answer. Okay, so what happens if derivatives don't have passports? You get them, Lucas, but as we talked about earlier, you only need them for the interview. Okay, what do I think about AF40? So that's 40,309 or something. AF 40,000 is a good number, so I don't think that's a problem. What's the estimate for 29,000 interview dates? I don't even know what that means. I don't, and definitely an angel is going to be killed for that, right? Because that's just a waste of my time that you asked that question without being clear. Yeah, so you point out his case number, but I got no idea of the region. So there you go, dead angel. Hi, Brit Simon. How are you saying hi from Kenya? I'm fine, thank you. And hi back to you. Jeremiah, I didn't answer the question last time. Well, I answered it this time, didn't I? There you go. Happy New Year, Simon. I'm relocating because of my career. I'll unlock my DS260 to change address. Will I need to email KCC after that? If so, what's the email format? As long as you're as long as you're moving within the same country, there's no real need to update your DS260 for that address change, right? If you are moving to a different country, then I would say unlock because you're going to be allocated to a different embassy, right? But so yeah, probably no real need. Okay. Introverted content creator, you do really well in turning up to my lives, but I'm hoping you're also watching my videos. And I posted one a few days ago on embassy performance, and that actually talked about the Cairo embassy and specifically gave the numbers for that embassy. So I'm hoping you've seen that, and you should have a better idea of how that embassy is performing. Okay. People here asking questions without being able to give a like on YouTube. There you go. Thank you, Justin. That's my point. And starting at what number would be the danger zone? Yeah, I don't know what number because I haven't seen the data yet. So we'll see the data and then we'll have a better idea. Okay. What about Paris performance? They're fine, Amy. They normally don't have a problem at all. I've never seen them have a problem, right? What happened? EDV case 2021. Okay, so we're still waiting for the appeal on the 2021 lawsuit. Thanks, Britt, for the guidance. My wife and I got to Jersey City on August 8th. Started a tech job within a week. Well, you did better than me then. I was answering that question earlier. I didn't start that quickly, and the company really wanted me. So started a tech job within a week, even though the process took 5 to 6 weeks. Oh, okay. Had started the interview process before arriving here. Gotcha. So they already had the job requisition lined up, that you'd been through several interviews. So when you arrived, you came on board quickly. That's really good. And I guess that you probably had specific skills that were very attractive to this particular client, because if they were interviewing you before you even arrived in the States, that's very unusual in my experience. Mostly recruiters don't want to do that because they don't really believe this ability you have to just win a green card and that you'll turn up and start working. That seems like an unrealistic thing to a recruiter. So, and they don't want to get involved in relocating people unless those people are highly desirable employees, highly compensated, and that sort of thing. So it's unusual. The way you did it was unusual, but I'm pleased for you. That's really, really good. You may even be more attractive as an employee than I am. I know. Hi, Simon. I'm under case number 3300 Asia, but I didn't get to an L. Why? Again, it's probably to do with your embassy, right? I read that interviews I should present proof of financial support in the USA. Please explain on that. Yes, there is a presumption for all immigration cases of a presumption that they need to satisfy, which is that the person should not become a public charge. A public charge is someone that is taking government assistance or government handouts in one form or another. So as a DV lottery winner, just like any immigration case, you have to satisfy the consular officer that you're not going to be a public charge, right? And in the case of DV, that can be by having a job offer or having your own savings or having somebody who is prepared to host you. That sometimes can help. But best of all of those, probably the most sort of consistently accepted of all of those options, and another option is the I-134. It's the affidavit of support. And there are two types of affidavit of support used in immigration. One is called the I-864, and that's for family-based and employment-based cases. And we don't use that form in DV lottery cases. We use the I-134. And there's some history as to why that form is used, but it's non-binding on the sponsor. It's not legally binding, but it's basically just a promise from them to help you in your journey. And it can be financial assistance or all sorts of other assistance. And so it's ideal if you can have an I-134 filled in by an American citizen or an American resident and taxpayer that has enough income to support their own family and your family combined, and is prepared to give that information to you. So you then take that I-134 to the interview with some proof, the sponsor's ID, the sponsor's tax documents and pay slips, and you present that in the interview, and hopefully that's enough to overcome any concern about public charge. Now, I will say that in some embassies that is commonly requested, and in other embassies it's very rarely requested. Okay, so, and it should be evaluated case by case. The CEO should look at the person on the other side of the desk interviewing and should consider their education, their career, their skills, their family support, and so on. A number of factors that would then say, is the CEO worried about that person becoming a public charge or not? And if they are worried, then they should ask for the I-134, right? So they don't always ask for it. Sometimes they'll just move past that point, and they've been satisfied through other ways. Okay, let me just do a few more questions here. Winner 2024 AF121K, is there any problem with its high case numbers? Yeah, clearly that's a very high case number, one of the highest I've heard of. 122K is the highest I've heard of at the moment. But in a couple of days' time, we'll see exactly how high your case number is in relation to all of the selectees. Okay, so, but it is undoubtedly a high case number, right? AF69K at Kathmandu. I'm a medical doctor, have a certificate, and I do freelance software development, self-taught. God help us. The last thing we need is doctors doing development. Speaking as a developer. File both my DS260 software as an additional occupation. Is it okay? Yes, of course. But clearly, your medical training is going to be more attractive in the USA than a self-taught software developer, unless you're an extraordinarily good software developer. Some software developers earn more than doctors, but that's very rare. So, you probably want to do medical. But anyway, none of that's a problem. And you're Africa, 69K in Kathmandu. That's unusual. Unusual for Africans or non-Nepalese to be in Kathmandu. They don't do very many interviews that are not for Nepalese. Interesting. Asia 9000 Nepal, will I get enough time to process my change of status from F1? Yeah, absolutely. There shouldn't be a problem. Nairobi is doing better. If I relocate to the UK and my family remain in Kenya, can they have an interview in Nairobi and I have an interview in London? It is technically possible for the principal selectee to be interviewed first and family to be interviewed in some other embassy later after that point. But it generally is not advisable, right? Because it's likely to go wrong. So what will happen is you'll go for your medical exam, usually, let's say, a month or so before the interview that you have. That means that you have a time clock of 6 months from the day of the medical before your visa expires. And you must enter the USA before your visa expires, right? And once you've entered the USA, your family can't benefit from your DV lottery win in the same way, right? So in that shortened time period, you then have to find an embassy that is prepared to give them an interview and follow up. And KCC won't help with that. So you're on your own negotiating with a local embassy for your family to get them an interview, right? It may or may not work. And if it doesn't work, you then have a very long, complex, painful process to bring your family through other family-based processes. So honestly, I wouldn't advise that. I would get on the plane and get to London, or have you go to Kenya, perhaps, although you have to consider embassy performance. But I know it's expensive, but it might be your best chance to bring them across to interview with you, right? Please, is there any possibility that African embassies, especially Ghana, might improve their work? How can I answer that? You're asking me to read tea leaves or see the future. Is there any possibility? Of course, there's a possibility they will improve their work, but when, or how much they improve by, I don't know. How could I possibly know what's going to happen? There's no way I can guess that. I'm sorry to repeat this question. Some people told me not to fill the DS until I get the passport. Thanks for your reply. Now, should I only click add applicant option or unlock DS260 as well? It depends, Haji, whether you added the child to your DS260. If you added the child to your DS260 and the add applicant button is still live, still works, then maybe you only need to use the add applicant button. But you must have listed your child on your own DS260 and that of your spouse, right? So, and I'm sorry other people told you wrongly, but don't compound the mistake by listening to those fools, all right? AF69K, I have a GF girlfriend and we're getting married, but war in Sudan screwed us, so we are relocating to KSA, both families. Will it be okay if we don't do a big ceremony? Legitimacy concerns at the interview. It could be a problem. I can't tell you it will definitely be okay. So you have to do whatever you can to prove that it's a genuine relationship, right? But it sounds like you would at least have both families there. Maybe not a big ceremony with the whole village or the whole, a whole group of friends, but at least both families, right? So you would take photos of that. You could show information about your relationship from before, maybe emails, maybe text messages, maybe trips you took together. You know, there might be other ways to show that your relationship was real. Okay. I have a son who is 4 years old and doesn't live with me, lives with the mother away from my current family. Will I be denied if I don't go with him to the interview? No. If you're not able to take the child with you, if that's not the plan, then it would be normal not to take the child to the interview, right? No problem with that. Samuel says, what do they look for during the interview to determine whether or not you have the skills or not to live in the USA? Let's say you're currently unemployed for some time, but you have a bachelor's degree. So they're not looking, they build a feeling. Remember, consular officers, their job is interviewing people. They figure out people. They observe people. They understand how to read people, right? And so they're just forming a subjective opinion based on how you appear to them, how you dress, how you respond to questions, your education background, your previous work experience. All those things will be factored in to build an impression, right? And you give an impression of how you are. Now, I've known people who've got master's degrees and bachelor's degrees, and they're absolutely useless. And I wouldn't give them any chance of surviving as a new immigrant in this country, right? Because they're just useless people. Having a bachelor's degree by itself does not qualify you to be an immigrant in a new country. It's hard to be an immigrant in a new country. I'll tell you that right now. It's very hard. You need to be resourceful. You need to be humble. You need to be prepared to work hard. You need to be prepared to take a step back in your career. There's tons of things. You need to learn new skills, new experiences. You have to assimilate. I mean, so much, right? And it's very challenging, right? Now, some people can do that. Not everyone can do that. And so the consular officer will form an opinion about that. Unfortunately, they have about 5 minutes to form that opinion. They're not always right. And so, they form that opinion and make a judgment based on that. And as I say, often these interviews last 5 minutes or less. So, you have to be well prepared. I mean, if you walk in, you're reasonably dressed. I don't mean you have to wear a suit, but you're reasonably well dressed. You have a properly organized set of papers. You respond quickly and confidently and accurately to questions when you ask questions. You're smiling. You're shaved, unlike me today. Whatever it is that can give someone a good impression of how you are, that goes a long way. Just everything I just said will go a long, long way, right? And so, as long as you're taking a little bit of care about the interview and that sort of thing. If, on the other hand, you go in shabbily dressed, you've got papers, they're torn, they're badly organized, you're asked a question and you mumble or you don't answer the question properly, or, if you give that sort of impression, slump down, you're just like not, you don't come across very well, then that can also work against you, right? and the consular officer could think, this guy, I don't think he can make it. And so I'm going to find, and when they think you can't make it, by the way, they find something in your application to complain about, right? To judge you on, because they can't write down, I didn't like this guy. That's not a good reason. Or I got a bad impression. That's not a good reason, right? But they can form an overall impression. And then if they're happy, and maybe the education's not quite there, but it's close, if they're happy, they can say, oh, no problem with the education. If they're not happy and the education is on the borderline, they can say, oh, I'm sorry, the education's not good enough. And they'll fail you for that reason, right? That's how it works. So you have to be thinking about that. Okay, a couple more questions and we'll call it a day. How are the likes doing? The likes are not doing great, I have to say. I'm disappointed with the number of likes I've got. Please, if there's people who've just joined, you should be pressing the like button, right? Or do you just not like these live sessions? In the case that there is an addition, newborn baby to the family in process before the interview, what happens then? In every case, in every timing, depending on when the baby is born, there is a way to add the baby to the case, right? Now, the actual way that happens depends on where you are in the process when the baby is born, but there is always a way to add the baby, right? Whether it's before the interview or after the interview, or there's after you've had your visa issued, there's always a way to add the baby to the case before you enter the USA. Once you've entered the USA, then I presume the baby is going to be born there. But even then, like if you enter the USA whilst pregnant, then leave the USA and have the baby born abroad, there's even a process to take the baby back to the USA and get the green card for the baby in the first 2 years of the baby's life. There's always a way, right? So babies are not a problem. So don't worry about it, right? There will be a way. And I have on my blog at britsimonsays.com, I have an explanation in detail about what stage you're at in the process, in the DV process, when was the baby born? Okay, here's how you'll do it, right? Okay. What happens when you cannot attend your interviews because you have to take the last vaccinations on a later date than the interview date? That is not true. That sounds like IOM talking. You can attend your interview without having all the vaccinations done from a legal point of view, from an immigration point of view. Now, you can't be approved or issued until all of your requirements are met from the point of view of the medical. But don't let the physician tell you that you shouldn't have the interview. That's not right. You should have the interview anyway. Okay. All right. I'm just scanning down to see if there's any great questions here. Here we go. Dorcas asked the best question of the, or made the best question of the day here. Imagine people are watching and asking questions, but are very mean on likes. Like guys and share. Brit Simon videos are so educative. You're absolutely right, Dorcas. You're quite right. And on that note, we should end today's session. But thank you for joining me. Do subscribe to the channel. There's still time to give this video a like. And please catch me on the next one. Now, I'm going to be back online in a couple of days' time. I'll be doing information about the SEAC data. It's exciting if you're a DV geek like me, or if you're a DV 2024 selectee, you'll want to know about this data. So I don't know that I'll be doing a live session, but I'll certainly be doing the analysis and publishing that at my blog at britsimonsays.com. So please watch out for that on the 1st, on the evening of the 1st, probably in most people's part of the world. Okay, thanks everyone. Bye-bye now.